Taller than you are. Concept for dinner. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. It's like 7:30 in the morning and it is already so humid and hot. I like to close the greenhouse up at night just to keep the dog out. My dog can be a little bit mischievous. He has a history of jumping up in the garden beds, no matter if there's plants in there or not. Just nice place to lay down. So it's actually Sunday, the day that I'm recording this. And I don't normally film during the weekend when my husband is home. That's normally just our family time and our chill time. But I thought I'd take you along on breakfast this morning. My husband makes an awesome breakfast every Sunday. Today we're having omelets. So we're having eggs from our farm, cheese from our farm, and vegetables from our farm. So the kids have a few little peppers in their garden that they really wanted to put in their omelets, but it's not quite enough. I have a few peppers here. They're not all ripe, but I'm gonna grab them anyway. I really like the flavor of these jalapenos, so I wanna have a couple of these. I'm interested to see the heat value of these Tblsp jalapenos. They're supposed to be not as hot as a standard jalapeno. And then we have these mystery peppers over here. This seed was labeled jalapeno, but it doesn't really look like it to me. One of our members suggested that it could be a golden jalapeno. I don't know, I'm gonna have Levi taste it. I know that these Marconi peppers are supposed to ripen to red, but I kind of need them right now. So I'm gonna pull one of these right now so we can put it in our omelets. Here's the sweet peppers, or the not hot ones. Got the hot ones in my pocket. Not into that. These are the jalapenos. Okay. So there's no heat in those. That one's not hot.
These ones are not sure?
No, so these are the Tblsp jalapenos. These are supposedly mild. Okay. And then this is the questionable one. That's the not sure that we're gonna need you to taste. Okay. We're watching Supermarket Sweep this morning. The ripe tomatoes that we have had have all come from over here. I do have some in the house. I don't see any that are, you know, like ready to eat ripe today, so I'm gonna leave these orange ones. Levi has started to dismantle the fence that was around the kids' old garden so that it's going to be easier for me to manage with the weed whacker. Looks kind of crazy over here right now. But this will be really nice to just be able to continue the garden space without a fence line there. Originally, this was a space that we would keep some chickens. You can see our old chicken tractor over there, and that was nice to have the ability to throw, you know, refuse or rotten or bug-eaten produce just over the fence at the chickens. But it's a garden now. It doesn't really look like it, but there's stuff growing over there. Sometimes I neglect to come over here during the garden tours, and really I neglect to come over here regularly anyway. But I noticed that we have some volunteer tomatoes coming up. I believe that these are slicers. I've got a lot of volunteer yellow currant tomatoes, but that's not what that is. There's a big one here. So I'm gonna leave those. I'm not going to connect them to the trellis. I would like the trellis to be for these Sunbelt grapes. These are a purple grape that's for like jellies. The grapes have started to grow really fast and I want them to have the trellis. So the volunteer tomatoes are just gonna sprawl out on the ground here. Obviously there's no tomatoes on those for our omelets. Look at that. Oh, gorgeous.
Very vanishing.
The heat is there, but it's vanishing. Does it taste anything like a jalapeno? Because one of the members suggested that this might have been a golden jalapeno. It doesn't really have a thick wall like a jalapeno would have. Does it have a jalapeno flavor at all, or is it more like a banana pepper?
I don't think I've ever had a banana pepper not pickled, so
Okay.
I have no idea.
That makes sense. I don't know if I have either.
It's definitely got spice to it. It might be a golden jalapeno, I don't know. This is regular jalapeno.
That's tamdu jalapeno, which is like a mild jalapeno.
No, because there was tamdu and regular, right?
No, I don't have any regular jalapenos.
It's got some.
It's kicking?
It's got some heat to it too.
Oh, wow.
Unless it's just carryover from that.
All right.
You
You still taste that hot pepper? Mommy didn't try it because that's what I don't like about spicy peppers is the lingering feeling. If I could get the heat and then it would go away completely and I could enjoy everything else, I wouldn't mind it so much, but I didn't even want to try it because I didn't want to ruin my breakfast.
Cucumbers from my garden. Me too. I have one that was super hidden.
I mean, don't need hot sauce with the omelet like that.
You don't need hot sauce. That's good.
Well, it's not that hot. I'd say the jalapeno hot sauce is hotter.
That would make sense. The jalapeno hot sauce was from that year that we had the drought.
Yeah.
And apparently, if your peppers haven't received a lot of water, they'll be super spicy. Yeah. These peppers have gotten a ton of water.
Well, I'd hate to see what they taste like without water, because they're not, like, I could eat it and not feel like I was gonna die.
That's
Maybe
good.
I shouldn't have just wiped my face.
Oh no! Apparently if you wanted your peppers to be spicier, someone told me you could add sulfur into the soil and that would make them spicier.
Weird.
Too. Yeah. But we don't need to do that.
No.
Okay.
No, they're tolerable. There's kick, but they're tolerable for sure.
Okay, good. Because
Yours was
super hot. Mine are not hot at all.
That was tamdu jalapeno, I think.
No, those
Did
were.
I put not-a-peno
These are
in
not
yours?
jalapenos. If you had done tamdu to me, I would have been sad.
Okay.
I am interested in trying them in salsa because I expect the spice there. I don't know.
Mixed into salsa, these would be good. I think they're mild enough.
I do like a tiny bit of kick in my salsa. The different jalapenos look identical, and so we tried to keep them separated. I think you did a good job because these do not taste spicy. Unless that's the Marconi that I'm eating.
I put like physical space in between
Okay.
each one. Mildest closest to me, the one we weren't sure of furthest away, but basically mildest to hottest. You know what the worst part is?
What? What?
The types of sensors in your mouth that feel hot. The same types of sensors are on the back end too.
I thought you meant the back of the mouth.
That's not what you meant.
I know what you meant.
So you're gonna hear some peeping in the background. We have some broody hens, which is one reason that we haven't been getting a lot of eggs. But honestly, when the hens started to go broody, I was almost grateful because at the time I felt like we were getting too many eggs for me to manage because I also had a lot of milk coming in. So I was trying to deal with preserving that milk. And I was very grateful for the break. But recently our hens have really not been laying a whole lot. Part of that is I do have some goats in with them to eat the grass in the chicken run. And that's something that we have to remedy today. When we put the goats in with our chickens, I have to feed the chickens on the outside of the fence. And when I do that, the chickens get enough, but not necessarily enough to lay well. But also the goats will eat the hay that I use in the nest box, and I just generally get less eggs when I have goats in with the chickens, so we need to get the goats out. But speaking of preserving milk, I have this white Colby that I've just made. It's beautiful, and we are gonna get some rain, so I'd like to get this out to the shed in my little cheese curing rack before that sets in, before the rain comes. I've already let the elephant garlic get rained on at least once, so I probably shouldn't make that a habit. Recently, my husband Levi picked up these IBC totes and outfitted our shed with gutters. And now we can route that rainwater into these totes and be able to use it for things like watering the garden. As you can see, this IBC tote used to hold in nitrogen. We're fine with using this on the garden. This is the state. This is as full as they are right now. So we'll see how full they are after this rainstorm. It's coming in. Where I grew up in Maine, we had a very large blackberry patch next to my dad's house, and those blackberries were not thornless, and it was a really dense, like, thicket of blackberries, and my sister and I would crawl through them, and thorns and all, because the blackberries were worth it. Look at that massive one. Oh my goodness. So this reminds me a lot of that, minus the scratches that we would get from the blackberries at home. I just showed you that really big one. I think that there's one bigger, but I have to really go in there to get it. It's way up there. There it is. I think that one's bigger. That mess. There's nothing in it right now. Isn't that sweet? Just wanted to get the blackberries picked before the rain. Usually when blackberry season hits, which I think it has, we have to pick the blackberries just about every other day to stay on top of them. And when I want to make something like a jam, what I'll do is I'll just put these in the freezer. I'll give them a quick rinse and shove them in the freezer, and then when I have enough to make a jam, I'll just do so with the frozen berries, and it works great. Every time I make a harvest, I look down at what I've gathered and I think about what would this cost at the grocery store. This is probably about $12 worth of organic blackberries, maybe more. Well, it's starting to rain. That was good timing. Hey guys, so it's actually the next day, and I wanted to show you that little peeper that you could hear in the first half of this video. This chick was removed from its mom because it looked like it maybe was getting a little bit abused. I'm not sure if you can tell on the side of its face, but it was bleeding yesterday. The girl said that the mama was pecking at it, and we've had that happen before where something gets into the broody mom and they want to have babies and then all of a sudden they don't. So we're rearing this one for now, and probably for good. I'm hoping that more hatch so this guy can have a friend pretty soon. See the little egg tooth still on this one? The girls have this repurposed rabbit hutch out here in the front. It's so warm that the baby chick does not need a heat lamp. You gonna show them how you've learned to eat? No? Biting your own toe. I'm actually in the middle of making like a sourdough discard cracker, and we're gonna have that with dinner, and I'll share that with you in just a minute. I have not moved any goats yet out of the chicken run because I haven't had the heart to. There's so much long lovely grass over in that chicken run that it would be sad to move the goats out of there because where I can move them to doesn't have as lush of a forage. But so you guys see this athletic tape that I have on my arm. I'm actually recovering from a steam burn that I got probably about 5 days ago from preserving some parsnips. And I was just now watching that 1870s Homestead. Rachel was giving a tip that she uses to combat squash vine borers. She uses that athletic tape and wraps it around the base of her squash plants to prevent the borers from getting their eggs on the plant itself, so the borers can't really bore down into the plant. And I would like to try that. I have a lot of this athletic tape. Also, here's an update on the rain catchment. So this one is a little bit better angled to collect water, so this one fills up faster than that one. We're still working on figuring this one out. We think it just needs to be a little bit shorter because it's shooting water out instead of down in. See how much awesome grass is in here? I would hate to pull them out. Look at it, it's taller than you are, huh? I think you guys will be all right for a little while longer, huh? The pumpkin patch is right there. We have this tree here. I'm probably gonna get dive bombed by Mama. Look at that fledgling. Hi, baby. How you doing? It's a little mockingbird, I think. He's cute. These are Dutch fork pie pumpkins, and they're doing really well. It's pretty hot out at the moment, and I'm really not seeing many signs of wilting, which is a good sign that we don't have any issues with the squash bugs or squash vine borers at this exact moment. Now what Rachel says she does is she will remove the soil until about the first set of roots and put athletic tape around the plant. What I've noticed with squash vine borers is they're decently non-discriminate about where they lay their eggs. In my experience, they tend to lay their eggs kind of willy-nilly all over the plant, mostly on the stem, yes, but they'll bore into the plant really at any point. However, blocking off the base of the plant is going to at least guarantee that the original source of nutrition for the plant should stay intact. So even if the squash vine borer lays an egg and infiltrates like an offshoot branch of the plant, that the whole thing won't be a loss. So I guess we'll see. An issue that I'm seeing with this particular variety is that the stem really isn't that big before the first roots appear. Guess I'll do what I can. I think really in my garden, the squash plants are a little bit big to try to manhandle and get this around, but I'll at least put it on some of them. And then throughout the season, we can kind of compare notes and see if we think it's working, because not all of these plants are going to be able to have the tape put around them. They're just too big and it's hard to get in there and manipulate them to get this wrap around. So what I'm working on to have with dinner tonight are these sourdough discard crackers. I have not made this recipe before, but I've looked at it. One of the reasons that I've shied away from a lot of sourdough discard recipes is there's usually a little tiny bit of discard and a lot of other ingredients. So it doesn't ever really feel like I'm saving much from not just throwing away the discarder when I use up a lot of other ingredients, but this recipe looked really good and I wanted to bake something today. So here is the dough. I did double the recipe because I know myself. Now what you see on this stovetop here is just remnants from when I mixed the dough together. So it's just the same stuff. It says to roll it as thin as possible. I am going to cut this in half and kind of work in batches so that I can roll it pretty thinly. It says to use parchment to prevent sticking. I don't like to follow rules. I bought this cool little crinkly cut knife, I guess it is, to cut some of our garden produce and make it a little bit more fun. I really bought it for cucumbers to make pickles, but I'm going to use this to get some fun cuts out of our crackers. Now it says to make them, I think, in 1 1/4 inch. Yeah, it says to use a 1 1/2 inch cookie cutter. What I am hoping to achieve for this is like a larger type vessel to put cheese and a little bit of rabbit salad on. If you are new to the channel, we raise rabbits instead of chicken for our white meat. So I've got a lot of canned rabbit and I use a lot of that in the summertime because a lot of times it's too hot to cook. Now I am baking today, but I'm not like standing over a steaming hot pot on the stove. We're still heating up the house a little bit, but this isn't too bad. So the original recipe says 15 minutes, but because my little cracker squares are a little bit bigger, I'm gonna start with 15 minutes and keep my eye on them. This here is what canned rabbit looks like. If you have never canned meat, I genuinely feel like it's a really great introduction to pressure canning, because with a lot of meat, you can do what's called a raw pack method. So you don't even have to pre-cook anything. You don't have to preheat the jars. It takes a lot of different steps out of the process that a lot of other recipes have. And by the end of the process, you get a fully cooked product. So we can use this just like we would use any kind of canned chicken or tuna that you would buy at the store. The one major difference is we do have to debone the rabbit because it goes into the jars bone in. Rabbits have all kinds of little tiny bones, and to try to debone the rabbit prior to cooking, there would just be a lot of waste. Doing this as a raw pack with bones in helps us get as much as we can out of the rabbit that we raise. Especially in this application, rabbit and chicken do taste very similar. The biggest difference that I've noticed in comparing the two meats is a texture difference, and rabbit also does have a different flavor to the fat. But see this here? This is rabbit meat, and it looks a lot like chicken breast meat, doesn't it? Normally, I don't get as much gel in the bone broth that results from canning my rabbit. Usually, the liquid that is naturally released from the rabbit meat in the can is pretty thin, and it will gel up in the refrigerator, but this particular rabbit, it gelled up inside the cans. I'm having a harder time getting it out of the can, but that's okay. I'm gonna leave whatever gels up on the meat on because it's good for you. It's good stuff. It just means I'll use less mayonnaise. I might not need mayonnaise at all because of that gelatinous bone broth in here. It doesn't look like it's gonna need it, which is cool. I've never had that happen before. So all I'm gonna do is add this all-purpose seasoning, farm dust. We get this at the local Amish store. It doesn't have anything weird in it. And then a really common way for me to jazz up my rabbit salad is to put in some kind of dill relish. I have done like a dilly bean relish before that was very good. We're all out of that. I've made relishes using green tomatoes before. We're all out of that. But I still have this cucumber dill relish. It says it's from August of 2020. So we've got to use it. This is using a beautiful weck jar. To open these up, we just pull the tab, and it releases the suction. This has been on here a while. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and drain this because I don't want all that liquid in the rabbit salad. I decided that I am gonna throw a little bit of mayo in here just to give this a little bit more structure so that it's not falling off of our crackers. That's perfect. Now, if I were putting this just on some toasted bread or something, I would be inclined to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese to this, just for that little bit of a bite of flavor. But our crackers, they are mostly Parmesan cheese, so we're gonna get a lot of that flavor in the crackers themselves. I think they're almost done. Okay. The recipe says to take them out when they are puffy and golden, which were there, and to let them cool on the tray, and they'll crisp up as they cool down. Okay, so it's been a little bit, and happily, a lot of these have crisped up. So the crackers that I did not put parchment on the bottom, those have crisped up better, which doesn't really surprise me. We cook a lot of the times on stoneware, and stoneware is kind of made to keep things crispy. And so you see the beautiful bottom there. I probably could have rolled these out a little bit thinner and they would have been a little bit less kind of bready. Here's an example of one that was on the parchment. It's more like a pizza dough rather than a cracker right now. This is my first time making these, and I'm sure I'll perfect this over time. So here's our rabbit salad and the concept for dinner. It's really good. I'm happy with it.